Okay, it seems that we're broadcasting again live from Nearsoft's Mexico City office. This is another broadcast of DojoLIVE, the place where experts like you gather to talk and share and learn and mingle and do fun stuff and talk about interesting things. And today we're going to have a very, very special guest. We're going to have Mr. John Silvani. He's the CEO of Gravity Software. And because this is a very, very high-tech company, then I'm going to do the high-tech thing, and then these are the credits, right? So this is the high-tech, the teleprompter that we have. Okay, and then we're going to have Roberto Martinez. He's also going to be the co-host, and myself, Carlos Ponce, and business development and host at Nearsoft as well. So here's our high-tech part. And of course, let me introduce you to our new version of soon-to-come DojoLIVE logo. Here's the thing. Now that I'm boasting this, okay. John, thank you for being here today with us today. I really appreciate you taking the time to, I know you're a busy guy, and I appreciate your having made a slot for us today here. John, I understand that you're going to be talking to us, and welcome, first of all.
Thank you, Carlos.
Absolutely, our pleasure, John. John, okay. You are talking to us about how to build a technology company or the entrepreneurial side of building a technology company. And so that's, why did you decide to choose, why did you choose this particular topic, John? Can you give us a little background on why you decided to pursue this particular career path?
Well, I'm not sure I pursued it directly as much as I fell into it, but I've become a serial entrepreneur. I've started 5 technology companies in the latter part of my career, and sold 3 of those, 2 to large public corporations. I have one right now that I'm incubating, so I kind of enjoy the whole starting organizations, watching them grow, getting them to start to mature, and usually, exiting out, starting another one. So I've kind of I'm good at that incubation stage.
I see. Perfect, John. Okay. So, in elaborating a little bit about this, you're going to be talking to us specifically becoming a technology entrepreneur. When I hear the word entrepreneur, a lot of images pop into my head, like, I can be an entrepreneur in, I don't know, I can get a franchise, I can open up a business of other sorts, which are non-technological in nature. Now, this case, you're going to be very specific again, because that's, as you say, you fell into it, right? You decided that this would be the way to go. And based on what you shared with me about your career path, you also mentioned that you got into this because you have firsthand, you're like a technology enthusiast. Correct me if I'm wrong, John, at any given time, please.
A gadget guy, yeah. I've been a gadget guy for a long time.
Oh, sorry about that. It was a little glitch here. As I was saying, you're a technology enthusiast, but you also have a very deep market knowledge and practical business strategies, and so can you elaborate a little bit about this as far as what you're doing with Gravity Software?
Sure. So Gravity Software is targeted as a small business accounting system for what we call second stage companies. As I said, I've been the serial entrepreneur, and I've studied entrepreneurialism, or how to grow a business, basically, for quite a long time. And so we've realized that there's a hole in the business software marketplace for companies that get to what we call second stage. The second stage are companies where they start to get a level of middle management, or they start to get, grow to a point, about 25 employees, and they start to need more resources than the entry-level business software can bring. but they don't have enough money, resources, or they don't want the complexity of the current mid-market accounting system. So Gravity fits that kind of white space that's in between the low end and these larger, more complex applications. And we've been working on it for about 3 years. We've just brought it to market the end of last year. So we're starting to get really good success with it.
Okay, excellent. So Gravity software is about. I remember that I'm not an engineer, but I understand that technology. I mean, the Gravity software is about numbers. It's about working with numbers. It's about counting, right? Am I correct with this?
Well, it's about all the business. But we wrote Gravity software on a CRM platform. So one of the unique things about that was actually bringing two different disciplines, accounting or the ERP side of the world, and that's, invoicing, payables, payroll, financial statements, together with the softer side of the CRM market, which is sales, marketing, customer service. In most organizations, those are islands. They don't share information, even though salespeople need to know what's in inventory, or accounting people need to know what kind of opportunities we're going to close next month. They have to go, basically almost manually and call each other. Gravity's written on a CRM platform, so all the information is transparent. So it's very easy for somebody to actually have security rights to see what's in inventory, even if they're a salesperson. They don't have to log in another system. They don't have to call somebody else. So again, we try to make it really easy and transparent.
I see. So it's really not just about accounting. It's a whole business management, online business management application or system platform, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And our goal was, again, helping companies, and this is obviously not just technical companies, but helping companies with tools and easy to use tools that will help them grow. Again, get them in a situation where their data, because right now, what's important in most organizations is information. Access to information, putting it in the cloud, making it easy to access on any device. So, we want to do that. We want to have a tool set for business that actually gives them access to their information, all their business information, not just a piece of it.
Okay, I see. Thank you about that, John. Another thing. Well, that's about Gravity software. Now let's talk a little bit about John Silvani, about what you have done and about your background and all your accomplishments, all the challenges, the successes, the failures. So everything that is involved in or related to creating a very solid, strong foundation to build a company like Gravity Software. Okay, I understand that you have experience, or you're very knowledgeable on other aspects that have helped you to become successful in this company in Gravity software, such as, for example, business intelligence or other enterprise software. What can you tell us about that, and how can what additional skills are required as a non-engineer to become successful in building a technology company? And I'm gonna let you do the talking.
Okay, sure. So I'll give you my background just to get so that everybody knows where I'm coming from.
Yes.
I started off as a CPA. I graduated as a CPA, and I was always this kind of gadget guy. I always learned gadgets. I learned how to play with PCs, and I programmed an assembler one time. I just, because I wanted to do it. I wanted to play with it and learn it. But I really was a numbers guy, accounting guy, a business guy. And I became, at that time, this is about over 30 years ago, when the PC industry was just getting started. Apples were becoming, Apple IIs were coming out the door. IBM was bringing PCs out, and businesses were starting to take PCs and network them together. And I became, in my accounting firm, the PC guy. I became the guy that everybody kind of came to and said, hey, I've got a client, they just bought 2 PCs and they need help. So that developed me into a practice within the accounting firm that I grew. And at that point, I realized that I can make more money if I take this practice and own it myself. So we basically went and started my own practice. I built that company up. We had offices from Toronto to Mexico City, actually, and throughout the U.S., and had about 250 employees. And we ended up, that company went bankrupt. We were not prepared for the whole Y2K item. But when Y2K came, we just weren't, we were leveraged because we were growing so fast. We didn't realize that the whole world would stop in technology.
Mm-hmm.
So that company basically went bankrupt, but I learned a lot. I learned, how to build a company and how to destroy a company, I guess, if you want to look at it that way, how to bankrupt a company, which is a good lesson from a business standpoint. You'll have failures when you build companies. So I took that information, and since then I've built 4 more companies. As I mentioned, I've sold several of them, Gravity being the one I'm incubating now. So I've learned and I've studied entrepreneurialism quite a bit. And one of the things that I would kind of bring to light from a technology, when a technology person starts a company or becomes an entrepreneur, it's very natural for them to think, I can do it all. I understand computers. I can understand gadgets. I understand software. I can do everything because, as entrepreneurs, we have these great ideas and we feel like we have so much knowledge that we bring to the table. But then technology people think that they can also, I can run the email system. I can, do all the SharePoints or whatever we need to collaborate and so on. I'll set all that up. But what really is important is knowing that where you're good, I call it your unique ability, where your unique ability is. And your unique ability may be in developing a product, not in plugging in computers and running email systems or hooking users up. So we as technologists have to be able to learn to step back and say, my unique ability is, and surround ourselves with people who can really bring other better skills to the table. Like I said, I'm a CPA. I can do accounting really well, but it doesn't bring any value to the world for me to do accounting. I can hire people much less expensive to do the accounting in my companies than I do. It's more important for me to be the visionary, to grow the company, to develop new products, than to spend time doing accounting. So again, that's a unique challenge that we as technologists have, is learning where we belong and where we should bring other people in. We're not good at doing everything, but finding your unique ability is probably a key aspect that I bring to kind of anybody starting a technology company.
Okay. So that's definitely something that drives me to ask you something else, something totally, well, it's related, but it's on a different direction. You mentioned something that I think is key in building a company, or specifically a technology company. You mentioned the expression, and I quote, unique ability, right? So you got to think in terms of, okay, what's my unique ability? What can I bring into the table? Or what could be my contribution as in general? Okay, and that's a very valid standpoint, and actually it's very practical and it's very productive. But on the other hand, this is what I have seen in some other contexts. Fortunately, not here near South, but there's this idea that sometimes you have to, or someone that wants to start a business, a technology company, or a startup, or something along those lines. There's these people, especially younger folks, who might want to build the next big thing, like I'm going to be the next Facebook, for example, or the next Twitter, or the next this, or the next that. And they have this crazy idea that they can accomplish it very easily, right? Because there's a huge the proportions between the realities of the industry and the state of the condition of the dreams that they're picturing in their head are not really correspondent. What would you tell these folks that have this mindset, that want to, go after the next big thing? I'm sorry, I'm going to add something. These folks that want to go pursue the next big thing, but not focusing on their unique abilities. They're just, good at coding, for example, but it's not really. That's very technical. So,
yeah,
what's missing there?
Well, I think you have to kind of connect with passion, and I'm not sure if have we frozen again, Carlos? It looks like we have. Are we back?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The audience is one of those little glitches, but yeah, we're back normal.
Okay.
So please.
So what I would say is, unique ability is one piece, but having passion is another. And of course, you have to have a product or a service that people want. So again, I mean, I may be the best coder, but if I'm coding in COBOL, which nobody really wants to buy, applications written in COBOL today, or Fortran, or languages that aren't, or it's not. You've got to have a marketable product too. So you can't just sit there and say, I'm the best coder in COBOL, and I'm going to go out there and build a business coding in COBOL. Very limited, obviously, marketplace for that. But if you have a skill or a product that you can bring to market that is, sellable and can be marketed, and you're passionate about it, and you have the unique ability to actually deliver that, then again, realizing where your limitations are over time and bringing people in to help you is a key area there. I've coached, the other side of that coin is I've coached a lot of, I call them young entrepreneurs or people who are starting out, and the biggest fear that seems to be is they're just scared of starting a business. They have great ideas. I've had several people that have great ideas. I've sat down with them. I've helped them develop business plans, and they can't take that next step because they're scared that everybody is risk averse. And as an entrepreneur, you can't be risk averse. You have to embrace risk because that's the nature of the game. So you have to be able to step forward and say, I'm going to take the risk. Maybe that means leaving my comfortable job. Maybe that means working at night, every night on the new project while trying to, maintain the existing, income coming in until it can, so on. But you've got to basically take that step. And again, great business plans that have never gotten executed, and I sit with people, and then I'll come a month later and say, where are you on that plan? Well, we haven't done anything yet. We're still talking about it. And you go, I can help you so much if you just take the step. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that a lot of folks out there could use the advice, and I'm totally with you. I totally understand what you're saying. Okay, now, John, another thing that I was thinking of, I'm taking a few notes here, and I'm going to rewind a little bit, and then I'm going to go back to the building a technology company, being a technology entrepreneur part of the equation. Again, you're building a software company. I mean, you're creating a software company, or you're building it, you're putting it together, and it's with great success. But just by definition, this is a software company, or software as a service, a SaaS company, right? So by definition, you cannot do it alone, or it's really not possible to build a company of this size on your own, just being a single, how do you call that? A one-man show, right? It's really very, very complicated. So you need to build teams around it. So how do you manage? And you also mentioned that you have, like, you say, for example, you open offices in Canada and Mexico City and other places. How do you handle it? I mean, how do you build your teams?
So probably one of the most important decisions that any entrepreneur has is hiring the right people, or surrounding yourself with the right people. In some cases, it's partners. In some cases, it's staff. But it is unbelievably important to pick the right people, because even if you're a 10 or 20 person company, one new person with a new ideas or new attitudes can either make that company get better, or it can start frustrating people and make it do worse. So I have a friend who has about a 30 person company, and to get a job at his company, it's usually about a 3 or 4 week interview process. So the cost of making a bad hire is just too expensive. He realizes that. So what he's doing is he's taking this 3 to 4 week process to make sure he hires the right person. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it basically, is one of those things where in the end, he's got a great team. He doesn't have to think of, oh, this guy didn't work out and I got to let him go, replace him, so on. So it's really important to have that really, good hiring kind of capability. I kind of have a little technical difficulty on my side here, Carlos. Let's see. You're back. You're back.
Right here.
Okay.
Never mind me. I mean, this is here locally, so you can. I'm sorry again, folks. It's one of those little things that are unpredictable, but we're taking care of it. I mean, no big deal.
Yep.
We're here. So please continue, John.
Yeah, so hiring is a key thing. So, you know, when you start to grow, another big attribute, again, this is not just technology people, but I think technology people intrinsically have this, that they really do need to let go. You know, again, one of the things that any entrepreneur has is, I'm great at everything. Again, so when I grow the company, there's only so much, and I want to micromanage every piece of the company to make sure it's done right. So on. You can't grow a company if you're doing everything. So hire the right people and then empower them to actually run the company, their pieces of the company well. Give them, you know, the skills. Empower their skills, but also give them responsibility. Make them accountable. And then that will help, hopefully, you know, start to give you the capability of growing your company beyond the limits that one person can touch and reach. But it's, again, so it's hire the correct people, empower the correct people, and give up, again, those areas of power to those people that you've hired, and empower them to do the right thing.
Elaborate a little bit. I think if you elaborated on that, that would help our viewers a lot. I mean, who are the correct people? They technically fit, culturally fit. Who's the correct people?
So I'm trying to think of the individual's name. He's a fairly famous individual who started actually one of his items he started is the whole visa concept. He started Visa. I can't remember his name, but he basically had stated, you can develop skills, but you can't develop the way people's culture is inside of them. You can't develop, you know, that. You have to hire the culture. So you have to, you know, so if you want to have a customer service company, you have to hire somebody whose mindset is customer service. You can teach them to be a coder. You can teach them to be an accountant. You can teach skills, but you can't teach them that intrinsic culture that they would have. So, you know, I would say, first off, you know, we all take the stance that we're going to hire a technical person. I need 2 coders. So I'm going to go hire, you know, 2 coders. I don't think about, you know, their customer service attitude. I don't think about how they're going to get along with other people in the company. I don't think about, you know, so on. I just hired coders. Put them in a corner and hopefully they code, give them a lot of Red Bull or whatever, and off they go. But, you know, really, if you want to build a company, you want those people to be the same culture that your company is, and you want them to be able to grow with the company and take on more responsibility than just sitting in the corner and coding. And they'll be more satisfied if they do that. So, you know, again, teach skills, but hire culture.
Actually, there's a saying. I mean, it's like a popular saying that goes something like that. It's like hire for train for skill and hire for culture, something along those lines. But it's something that I've read somewhere, but it's very aligned to what you're saying. And okay, John, in doing so, and this is very exciting, and the whole idea of building I don't know, cross-cultural teams or cross-border teams, whatever you want to call it, is exciting because it's very challenging, right? Because you're trying to align like folks from, I don't know, from one country and then with some other people who might be in another country, and so it's a little bit challenging, right? So it's not always milk and honey. Sometimes things go well, sometimes they just simply don't. Okay, so in the event that, I mean, if everything is going fine, it's really nothing to worry about. But if someone is building their team, just like you're saying, just like you're describing, and they're experiencing a lot of glitches, cultural glitches specifically, how do you overcome them? Because it's not easy. Do you meet with them on I don't know, by web conference or physically? Do you talk to them? Do you engage with them? Do you build rapport with them? How do you elicit that idea of having your people happy when you're building a team, a cross-cultural team?
Well, I think, you know, and I've had several right now. Currently, my development group for Gravity is in India, and you know, the pretty much management team is in the U.S. Prior, I had a company where I had an office in Toronto. I had an office in Mexico City. Again, especially Mexico, culturally different than the U.S. I think the most important thing first off is you have to understand the culture that they have well enough to be able to work with them. I mean, if you just come in and say, you know, I'm an American and you have to do it my way, you're going to build an adversarial relationship because their culture is different and they do things different, believe in things differently, and so on. So I think as an entrepreneur, as an owner, you have to understand the culture of their country, of their world, and then you can help blend that culture in with yours. So I mean, it doesn't end up being, you know, everybody's going to be American throughout the world. That doesn't work. You know, they don't believe. You know, it's as simple as in India we have different holidays. I mean, I was one day trying to get a hold of my developers, and we talk almost every day, thanks to all the great technology, and no one was answering the phone or answering Skype. And I find out it's Diwali Day. I'm getting upset. But I realize this is one of the largest holidays in India, and I should have been cognizant of that. So instead of, you know, fighting them and getting frustrated, I should have been, hey guys, I hope you have a nice Diwali Day tomorrow, you know, type of thing, because it's a big holiday there. So I think, again, it's really important to understand the culture. Then when you understand it, you can start to bring it together and making sure, again, not just that you understand it, but the teams understand, and of course the teams on the other side of the culture understand where we're coming from us, you know, from our side. So a lot of that gets into probably the biggest key is communication. I stopped a long time ago in many companies. I'd end up with employees with email wars. You know, they get mad at it, so they won't talk to them. They'll send them an email because it's impersonal. And then the other person will send back an email kind of like really short and terse and just upset. And then it just goes on for weeks. And it just builds up this animosity between two people. But if you get them to sit in a room and talk or address the issue together, it's the same thing, I think, if it's cultural. If you get them on like we are today, if you get them and communicate with them, those issues work themselves out as long as you're, again, cognizant of where they're coming from.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I have had the opportunity to watch firsthand how these sometimes unlikely groups work, and well, it doesn't really flow that well or as well as we would have wished. But okay, I'm gonna shift a little bit to something else here. Well, I mean, it's related, still related, but now it's related more to you, to your, and I'm quoting your blog here because I have, by the way, folks out there, whoever's watching or will be watching, John has a blog on the page, right? Am I right, John?
Yep, we have a blog. I contribute quite a bit to it on go-gravity.com.
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually it's right there on the page. There's a pull down menu that says blog. I strongly recommend that everyone should actually read it because I'm reading here something that it would be key, like regarding today's topic, which is building a technology company. Okay, you have this entrepreneur wants to have this idea about building a technology company. He has the capital or the funds and the energy and the drive and the enthusiasm. And then he gets it started, right? And now I'm going to quote you on one of your blog's entries. The title is, "I started a business. Now, what do I do?"
Yep.
Okay. What would you tell? I mean, if someone asks you exactly the question that you used for your blog's title, "I started a business. Okay, now what do I do?" What would be your first response to that?
Well, that blog, it was actually very tactical in its nature to help give people, you know, some websites to go to, some things that they could actually do. Very, you know, work with local bankers, work with work with CPAs, just basically some bullet points to say when I sit down with these new entrepreneurs who are starting a business, I sit down with a business plan and I say, okay, you need email. The simplest thing to do is Gmail or Office 365. It's basically 10 minutes and they're set up and they're done. Why do you want to try to do anything other than that? As an example, so there's so many tools available. There's so many free tools available to entrepreneurs right now to be able to launch their company in a small way. There's like a product called Zendesk for a help desk. You have a software company, Zendesk will give you a free 3-user license to help start your support side of your company. As an example, as a startup. Microsoft has a program called BizSpark, which gives you free software to use in developing your company. So that blog was meant to be very tactical and giving ideas of where to go and what to do and so on. But if I answered that question a little bit differently, if I started a company, not what do I do? I would probably, from a more higher level business plan, and I had this conversation recently with a good friend who's also a serial entrepreneur. Everything takes twice as long, and your revenue or the cost will be twice as much. So make plans that if you think you're going to be a $1 million company in 2 years, it'll probably be 4 years. If you think it's going to take you $50,000 the first year to start your company, it's going to be $100,000. So my first comment would be to anybody starting that company is set your expectations to double what you think they're going to be, just to be in the ballpark of probably what's going to really happen.
Excellent. Okay. John, you used an expression also, and this is along the same line of thought. You used something that pulled my attention, and it's serial entrepreneur, right? For some people, including myself, to be honest, it's like the very first time that I heard serial entrepreneur, the first thing I thought was, why the need to be a serial entrepreneur? I mean, if you have this idea, why not go for it for the long term and just keep it, right? And what criteria lies behind the idea of coming up with something, making it really successful, then sell it? I mean, why not keep it?
I don't. So it's where I get my unique ability, where I get my passion from. My unique ability is not managing lots of people. I don't get passion from having a big staff and HR and so on. I get passion from taking an idea and growing it to the point where it's a real product or tool or software, and watching it mature a bit. Once it gets, I look at myself, I like to manage teams up to about 75 to 100 people. Above that, I have the skills to do that, but I don't enjoy it. I'd rather get back into the beginning saddle again and take another product and grow it. That's where I get passion from. Even though it's really kind of a lot of stress and work, and you don't know if it's going to be the right idea, you don't know where your funding may come from at some point in time. But in the end, I get excited by seeing this little concept grow into a true product. We're doing this with Gravity. It went from concept to product in about 2 years, and we now have real users on our software. That's exciting at the end of the day. Now, it'll still be exciting as it grows, but at some point, my passion starts to go away, and I'd rather do another Gravity or so on.
Okay.
Carlos, you froze on me there, so I can't hear you.
Okay, we're back again. We're back again. So I gotta take a peek into whatever's going on here in the network today. Apologize for that. Goes beyond my reach, my understanding. Okay. All right, John. Okay, let's see what else do we have here. Oh, by the way, I'd like to pause for 1 second, and I'd like to remind the audience that they can send us their question. It's there. You can do so by simply clicking on the lower left-hand side of your screen where it says "Be part of the conversation." Just click there, and it'll take you to a Q&A prompt where you can send us your questions. And also, John, I just got a brief message from Roberto Martinez, our co-host today, he was going to be our co-host today. He wanted me to apologize on his behalf because he couldn't make it on time. He got stuck somewhere else. So but he's going to be looking forward to some other time being able to talk to you. So,
Perfect.
so I apologize for that. And but anyway, it must be for a good reason, and Roberto wouldn't do that otherwise. So, anyway, I have another couple of notes here, and and this is something that I wanted to ask you real quick. Is because I'm personally interested in this because I've heard it a couple of times, but I'd like to hear your impressions on what it is like to be the recipient of the Crain's Award, like who's who in technology.
You know, it's I always look at awards as, you know, a marketing tool for me. I don't really think of them in, you know, to me, it's not what we've done, it's what we're going to do. That's what I always go for. So having won an award is great. I think from a standpoint of being able to position it in the company and say, you know, the company's won awards, I've won awards, so on. It helps people to us attract people to look at us, to look at our software, look at what we're doing. But more important for me, from an attitude standpoint, is I'm always like, you know, that's history. That's over. I could have made $1 billion yesterday. What am I going to do tomorrow? You know, I want to really go forward, and we should always be looking at what we're going to be doing. And so that award really doesn't help us going forward. It just gives us, you know, hopefully more incentive to do even better, get more awards, I guess. But the goal is, you know, continue to grow, continue to build.
Okay. Would you say the same thing about, in this case, the Lawrence Technological University? Is their recognition?
Yeah, I mean, they're all
Same
great
thing.
things. Yeah, they're great things, but again, that's history, you know. And I appreciate that getting recognized, but I really want to see what are we doing tomorrow? How are we gonna do better? You know. Again, if that means more awards, great. But again, those are just, to me, things you hang on the wall to say, you know, or hang on your website to say, hey, come look at my product. We won awards.
Yeah, of course. It's kind of like what I would call an emotional pat on the back, self pat on the back.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you know, good job. Yeah, but but keep hammering away at whatever
Exactly.
it is.
Yeah. And awards aren't gonna, you know, pay for a cup of coffee. They're not gonna, you know, I mean, they're just awards. So they're just, you know, they're just pieces of paper. They're nice, but you've got to go forward and build.
Absolutely. Okay. Now you. Hold on one second. Let me just open up something here. You sent a couple of topics here regarding your. Okay, here it is. These are like key points of your background, and this I would like to, if possible, to have you elaborate a little bit more. And you mentioned that you have created more than 5 technology companies in the last 15 years, right?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Now, were these companies different in nature, or were they all related to your what you're passionate about, or were your unique ability, or are these different companies? So how did you manage it?
They're different aspects, but they're all business software applications. So one of the companies was actually for the casino gaming industry.
Okay.
We wrote software to actually manage compliance and we were in almost every large casino in the U.S. and we were starting to go international. We sold that company just recently. You know, the Gravity is a software company that is developing a business application. One of the companies I sold was a company that basically was an implementer of business technology from Microsoft and other parties to help into middle market. So they were a large consulting company primarily. So different companies, but all around, you know, again, my passion is business applications, growing businesses, giving them tools to grow. So kind of in that vein of business, you know, they're all around that kind of area, but they were different companies, different aspects of business software.
Okay. In a way, more ways than one. All the companies, these 5 companies are somehow related to what you are, what John Silvani is as a professional, right?
I would think so. I would think so. I mean, again, I've studied entrepreneurialism from different aspects, and I love to basically help companies grow, whether it be as simple as providing software that they can grow with, helping an entrepreneur who, build a business plan. I get really excited by seeing things go from, again, that inception to a product to being a real company. And if I can do things to help along that way, whether it be, providing the software that they can run as a foundation, whether it can be helping with consulting, whether it can be helping, again, with a business plan. So everything I've kind of done has always been around that vein of helping companies grow with technology.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There's also something else that I wrote down here that I wanted to ask you. In this process, John, of building technology companies, I assume, and this is, I don't have the facts, or I'm just assuming that at some point you might have had like something, an event in that process that you could label as a disaster, right? Or something that really bad that happened that really challenged you. If that was the case, how did you overcome? How did you overcome that event, or what would you? If that's not the case, then what would you do if you had such a I don't know. I don't know how to call it. And
Sure.
Please bear with me because my English is my second language, so I have to sometimes I kind of forget. But I mean, how would you overcome it?
Yep. No, I think so. Probably the biggest.
Or you get an anecdote to share with us?
Yeah. The biggest business disaster was when I had my first real company go bankrupt. And again, we built this up to about 250 people. And when you think about, when we always thought about this, it's not just 250 people. Many of them were married, they had children. So you're thinking about 500 or 600 or 700 people who are based on, are living off of this company being in existence and so on. Mm-hmm. So when the Y2K came and the software market kind of imploded, people were not spending money on technology because they'd spent so much. Mm-hmm. We ended up in a situation where we had to start closing offices and eventually close the company. And again, this is my first real major company, and I was devastated. And I really have to, basically, hand it to my wife, because what happened was on a Friday, I called her. She knew things were happening, but I called her and says, we've closed the Detroit office. We're probably going to start closing other offices. I'm probably going to leave the company because I don't want to live in another city, so on. And by the time I got home, she had a glass of wine, and she said, we got to start another company. And I go, what do you mean? So on Saturday, I pulled a few of my key employees that were also basically out of work as of Friday and said, we got to start another company. And on Monday, we had another company. Now, it was just an inception at the time of 3 or 4 people, but we went from Friday closing an office and basically spiraling downward, thinking, what are we going to do, to Monday. The hardest thing was coming up with a name for the new company. And with a handful of people, we started that company up, eventually got it fairly large and sold it. So I had it for about 10 years in that, area of inception to where we sold it. And it was great. And so I think you have to obviously learn from the disaster. You have to really understand what went wrong, and again, blame yourself. If you were part of the problem, which quite often it is, we can't place the blame everywhere. We had Y2K issues. I learned a lot of what I should have done differently in that company. Not that it would maybe have saved it, maybe it would have, but I've learned, the things that I can do better, or I should have done better, and apply those going forward. So we basically had a new company on Monday. We, within 10 days to 2 weeks, it was formalized. Within, a month, we may have had our first employee, and we ended up, again, in 10 years having almost 100 employees. And then we sold that company. So, again, it's not looking at history, but going forward.
And I would assume that also that's really not for everybody. I mean, you have to have this how can I say this, broad scope vision or long-term vision, or simply guts, to take that step. I mean, what you're saying is quite a feat. I mean, it's closing a company on Friday, then starting another company on a Monday. And I mean, man, that's quite. I mean, I don't think if I could ever do it. I mean, to be honest, and so what kind of personal traits, John, would you say that are really required or at least useful in order to accomplish such feats?
Well, I think you have to be a risk taker. You have to embrace risk. And if you don't embrace risk, you're not going to be an entrepreneur, because as I said earlier, you're not going to want to be able to take that step, as scary as it may be. So the first trait would be obviously, being able to embrace change, embrace risk. And embracing change is all, maybe as important as risk. Risk is obviously scary, but change isn't always risky, but it's change, and we as people don't like that. But as companies grow from that seed to a mature company, they change so much and so often that if you don't embrace change, if you fight change, you'll hold the company back. So entrepreneurs need to embrace change, embrace risk, and then again, it's now. There's really two main roles that in a growing company that seem to make sense, and a good friend of mine has kind of outlined them in a book that he had written. But it's really, one's the visionary person, and one is, let's call it, the manager. So as companies grow, when they get to be, I call, second stage companies, you need to understand who's the visionary and who's going to basically run the inside of the company. And you'll find that generally one person can't do both because they're almost opposite traits. So, the entrepreneur usually is the visionary because he had the idea in the beginning, and he can start the company off with this great idea, and he's the rah-rah guy. But then somebody at some point has to make sure that the invoices go out the door on time, and customers pay, and employees' paychecks get, all the stuff that has to happen to make a company run and function. And that's more tactical pieces, not visionary pieces. So you need to develop that. That's where you get back to unique ability. Again, most entrepreneurs are visionaries primarily, not tactical people, because tactical people don't come up with the ideas and say, hey, I'm going to make a new Facebook. It's a visionary that makes a new Facebook, and somebody then helps as they grow to be that tactical person.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of, there's a lot of food for thought, in everything you were saying. And as we're approaching the final minutes of this broadcast, John, I would dare to ask you, if possible, where would you? I mean, before we close, where would you leave us? Where would you leave our audience? What would be like the main, in a few words, what would be like the main message that you would like to convey to anyone out there who's thinking of becoming a technology entrepreneur, just in general?
I guess I'm just thinking that probably how to be succinct about it would be primarily to embrace your passion. If you're passionate about a project, a skill, a product, so on, that you again, it's marketable. That's a key thing to remember. Embrace your passion and take the risk and go forward with it. And it may just have to be a calculated risk. Like, you can't just leave your job tomorrow and be homeless because you can't afford your lease or anything like that. But you may have to do this as a stepping stone. So, but do your due diligence, but embrace it and build, because you may be the next Facebook. You may be, everybody at some point, even if you study history, the Rockefellers or the oil companies, they all started with one guy who had a great idea, who built a company. Henry Ford, who built an automotive company. A Bill Gates who built a Microsoft. They all started with that one idea somewhere in that small company. So it's very, there are more companies out there. There's more people out there that are going to be able to be these next generation entrepreneurs and build these significant companies. So embrace that idea, and if you're passionate about it, go for it.
Excellent. Okay, John, in closing, I'd like to throw something at you. And this is kind of like a play on words, or a mental game, so to speak. If you, as the CEO of your company, of Gravity Software, if John Silvani had to choose between, let's say, two inspirational archetypes or symbols, And you have one here, and you have another one here. And this on this side you have Steve Jobs, and here you have Richard Branson. Which one would it be?
Oh, that's a really interesting. I think they both bring so much to the table, and actually, there's a lot of similarities in them. I love Steve Jobs for his ability to bring simplicity to the world. For example, you have a very complex device like an iPhone, for example. It's a computer. You operate with one button. I mean, that's amazing in and of itself. That to be you can run a complex device. And you have someone like Richard Branson, who has basically been able to build in many different vertical areas, not just within one. Airlines, for example, and so on. So I kind of see both as being huge icons out there. I would probably lean towards the Steve Jobs only because I'm a technology guy and I like gadgets and stuff. But I think both have a lot to offer.
Excellent. Okay, I'm kind of more like a Richard Branson type of guy, but I understand about the I just love the simplicity that Steve Jobs brought to the technology world. So yeah, there you have it. Visionary and surrounded by the right team, I assume, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, John. Well, we're about to close today's broadcast. I really want to thank you for having agreed to be here, like I said in the beginning. And you and I are going to be in touch because, like I said, we're going to be sending you some tokens of appreciation, which I hope that you enjoy.
Thank you.
And that's pretty much it for today, folks. Again, John, thank you so much.
Carlos, thank you. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. It was our pleasure. Okay, so all for now. Thanks all, and until the next time.
Thank you.
Goodbye.